I've had many leading experts on this show, including Matthew Walker, and they've all said the same thing about sleep. They've said it's the biggest positive investment you can make in your own performance. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you're consistently tired, poor decision-making will follow and eventually cause other things to fail in your life. So if you're looking to optimize your recovery, you should start looking at what you're sleeping on. Our sponsor, Helix, makes high-quality mattresses tailored to your body. It doesn't matter if you run hot, sleep on your side, or need something firm. Helix has a mattress for you. And I asked them recently to send one to a member of my team, and Juan received it. And we travel a lot, so when he's home, quality sleep really matters. And he told me he's getting the best sleep of his life. And the data backs it up, with 82% of people in a Helix study saying they saw an increase in their deep sleep. And with a 120-night trial, you've got 4 months to prove it to yourself. You can get 27% off at helixsleep.com/diary. That's helixsleep.com/diary. You've got, two businesses, two key businesses. And when you run a business, when you're young, irrespective of age, you undergo a couple of things, real unexpected chaos at any given moment, then also a tremendous amount of sacrifice. I actually wanted to start on the sacrifice piece because I don't think people, as you said earlier, get to fully see the full picture of sacrifice and cost, both personal and professional, whatever. So talk to me about some of the sacrifice that even you didn't expect before you got into business and before your business grew.
I think that at the same time as I kind of benefited hugely from the, having money at university, for example, I also went to university expecting one thing and then actually spent it essentially getting up at X hour working on university stuff because I never, ever, ever wanted to give them an excuse to think that I wasn't concentrating fully on my university, and then working all the way, essentially, way into the night to get the other stuff done. And I also, that comes with being high profile, that comes with all of these things. So I guess one of those things was very much like there was the time and the life experience and all of that because things took off quickly at one stage, even if it wasn't that the businesses took off, the businesses have done much more over the past year and a half or whatever when I haven't been at uni. But at that point, the high profileness, all of that came with, I guess, different to what I was expecting, or not what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting it at all. And therefore there was kind of, I guess, something that I really did want for myself, I didn't get, but I also got, a lot more in another way, I guess. What did you want
for yourself?
I just wanted the university experience, really. Right. And I think that I was once this took off, I'm a very determined person, and I get a vision and I'll work for it day and night. And I think that I actually got to, I think in that instance, it's kind of like a fork in the road, and you decide, okay, well, I'm taking this one and I'm going to concentrate on this. I'm going to grow the businesses. I'm going to all of that. And then I think as well, I saw the deadline for that as my end of university, because if it wasn't as big as I wanted it to be by that time, or if it wasn't, whatever it might be, I was going to choose, I was going to go into a normal career. And I think that, so I was so dedicated to making that happen rather than, I wanted to grow up too quickly, essentially. I'm 23. And I think that a lot of that has been, I guess, in terms of people's, when it's people who meet you, their kind of perception of you or whatever it might be. And so I think that was something where it was a choice I'd make again and again, but it was, I guess, a sacrifice that I wasn't expecting to make. And I guess that comes with everything. That comes with, relationships, with friends, with time in general, with, time to yourself, time to whatever. I think having a business in a way, and I'm sure some people will disagree, but having a business in a way is like having a baby, and you can't just like up and do whatever. You can't say no when a crisis comes in at 1 a.m. You can't, that is what it is. You get all the other benefits with those conditions.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I think that, that's kind of a constant one. You can't say, I'm going to quit this and go and do this for 2 years, because especially when you've got X amount of people working for you, you've got all of their salaries, you've got all of their pensions, you've got, it's a huge responsibility.
And the buck stops with you, right?
Yeah. And that's, it's an important one.
Sometimes I reflect on the business journey and just how like obsessive it is and all consuming it is. And I think it's a bit of a disease. I'm like, why did I choose this to like
it's almost like masochistic.
Yeah, it
like,
is. Yeah.
Because obviously it's got the most amazing benefits, but it is also like, I remember my friend, I can't remember, I think we'd agreed to just lockdown things. We'd agreed to watch a movie on a Sunday night, and then the Sing came up and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm just going to work harder, so it's just going to be easier for this week. And it was like tiny sacrifice. And my housemate turned around to me and she was like, what is the point of you working this hard for this many years if you can't watch a movie on a Sunday night? And I was like, yeah, fair. Like, as in like, you're not wrong. Like, I'm still going to do it. Yeah. But like, you know, you're not wrong. Like, it's...
What is the answer to that question though? So say, because I've muddled over this as well. If I'm working obsessively every day, at what point is enough?
Yeah.
When does it end?
I think that it all comes with what you want. And I think that, you know, I've listened to you before, and I've listened to you kind of saying that, you know, there came a point that you realized that it wasn't about money. So like, what was it about? And I think for me, there's the kind of aspect of it's for the businesses, and I have these really clear dreams for the businesses that result in dreams for me as well. Sure. But I think I think I'll come to a, you know, if I decide to sell a business or whatever, I'll come to that road there where I'm like, okay, what is it for now? Mm-hmm. And I think that knowing myself anyway, I know pre-business, post-business, I'm sure, I am like that. Mm-hmm. So whether it's this or whether it's something else, or, you know, and I hope I can channel that into something else at some point that doesn't require every inch of your being. I know I'm like that. So it's kind of like, yeah, sure, it might be for nothing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, there doesn't need to be reasoning behind the fact that this is how I am. I've always been like this. I've always been kind of like, I'm going to make this happen. Like, whether that's kind of through like coordinating all the babysitting jobs that you got in one night and allocating them out to your friends
smart.
And stuff. Or, you know, like taking essentially like any job ever that I could, then, you know, that's what I'm like. So I kind of know that.
Where did that come from though?
I think probably a few things. I know that everyone in my family is a very hard worker, and that is it's kind of almost like an anxiety to do well, even though like my parents were not pushy at all. I think people assume, you know, especially if you go to Oxford or like whatever, but the least pushy people ever. I think that actually I kind of was discussing this with my sister the other day. I was like, where does it come from? It doesn't come from our parents. Like, it comes from them clearly because they had it in themselves. But, you know, like both my parents had careers when I was growing up. I lived with my mum, just me, my mum, and we had a tenant who lived in my mum's house, and my mum was working pretty much all the time. Incredibly, like, I respect her so much for it, because I also never grew up thinking like, oh, it's weird for a woman to have a career and have 4 children and like whatever. She just, you know, she worked all the time, and she loved it. She loved it, and she gave her like everything to it. And so I think I spent a lot of time kind of in that situation, knowing that I also wanted to love what I do. Mm-hmm. And I think there is this misled like perception that, you know, like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, blah, 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 blah. But I also think that there is this, like, it's a flow state, isn't it? Like, you have something that matches your challenge and your skill level, and you get more fulfillment than you'll get from anything. And I think I remember saying it like, I think it was like when I was like 15, 16, and I would take like work experience from anyone every single holiday and every single school holiday. And I remember my teacher saying like, you should probably choose one of the avenues and then you can do like more within that or something. And I remember just saying to them like, I'm so terrified that I'll be stuck in something that I hate. Mm. And it was like a constant like, and I don't think it's necessarily good. I don't think it was necessarily healthy. I was constantly so terrified that, you know, the same was for university, the same was for whatever. Like, I didn't get into Oxford the first time I applied. Really? I went again. I literally that same day I went online and I found out what I could do for a year that would earn myself some money to be able to not be, I guess, studying that year. and went to and applied for the IBM Futures Scheme, which is the one they do for gap year students, that literal same day.
Wow.
And then applied again the next year. And like, as in, I'm very like that. It's very set on kind of one thing. And if that thing then doesn't work, I either want to do it again. Like, it's really clear to me. I either want to do it again, or I'm like, that wasn't right. And then I move on. Mm-hmm. But I know that I'm very straight out and very, like, I will
dogged.
Not stop until I
get it
right.
What's the, going back to the business and the chaos and the sacrifice, is there one day in your business career over the last couple of years which was your worst day?
I mean...
Or your toughest challenge?
I think my toughest challenge in general was, there was this stupid time that I'm constantly praised for, that was the worst decision I've ever made in my life, which was that I was coming up to my university finals. I was launching a business I think it was a month before my university finals. Yeah, I was launching a business at the beginning of May, the 7th of May, if I'm right. And I finished my finals on the 6th of June. Now, that meant that 40,000 words were due and 5 3-hour exams within the space of 2 weeks. And I also wanted to launch my business, and I also wanted to do well at university. I'd been working with that for 3 years. But I'd persuaded people as well. I'd persuaded people to spend money on this launch. I'd persuaded people to, so I was going to do it right. People were like, you're amazing. Like, this is so great. Like, how can you do this? And I'm like, you are, like, it's not wise. It's not smart. Yeah. Like, it's not, like, this isn't a competition for how many boxes you can tick within a small space of time. Mm-hmm. That is like a fast track towards burnout and either something going incredibly wrong or whatever. And I think that, like, as I've said, work was always a coping mechanism for me. So it's always kind of like, well, if we have to do it now, or we like run out of money before launch, then we're doing it now. And I don't care. Like, I can work X, Y, and Z. And I actually have like a whole chapter in a book where I'm essentially talking about, like, that was the time that I felt most validated in being a hard worker. And I felt like, because I was in the library at 3 a.m. and I was also on the phone with the suppliers at 7 a.m. the next morning and all of X, Y, and Z, and people could see it, and I was living it. I was like hustling the hustle. And that was when I was like, wow, like, this is it. Like, I am the hard worker, like, with capital H and W, and like, this is me. And I think that is like, that kind of like sums it all up in the way that was a huge challenge, also an incredibly unwise challenge at the time. And yet, why did that feel like the time I was doing it right? So that's a lot of what spurred on essentially why I was writing the book, because it was kind of like, how can that be the epitome of hard work when that is also the epitome of not being productive? Like, that's like completely unproductive, and not useful for anyone. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be nice with the people you deal with at the time. You have a higher chance of actually like messing things up and all of that. And yet, why was that the one time that I felt like truly validated for what I was doing?
And you were broadcasting that?
And I was broadcasting that, and there'll be people, I'm sure, who see me now who are like, but she, did this and that. And like, yeah, sure, I work really hard. I really do. But there are some things that it's kind of like, I address that. And like, as I said to you, while I was writing the book, there were so many things that I noticed. I was like, I'm the problem here as well. I perpetuate this. Mm-hmm. How can I criticize a culture, the hustle culture, that I benefit from at the same time? How can I do that? And I think that that's what made me, that's why I say that this book was such like a soul searching process for me. Because I was like, what is that? Why is that? Like, is that because I need the validation? Is that because we all need the validation now? Because hard work has become so unobtainable, because it has to be doing this job, that job, like everything in between, also being amazing at self-care, also doing like X, Y, and Z. And I think that that's when I was kind of like, okay, this is a challenge, but it's not only a challenge, it was a silly thing to do. So it's not even like there are things you have to do, there are crises you have to deal with and all of that will be a challenge and will also be incredibly rewarding and all of that. And most of them are. But I think there are other things that you look at and you're like, yep, this was a challenge and it also didn't have to happen. Let's not do that again.